Hello and welcome to F1 Daily, your daily dose of Formula One right here on the F1 Word. Are we all good tonight? Everybody in chat ready for that one? I can already see the memes coming in. Yes, WTF1 did something on Belgium. I'm sure it'll come up at some point. But I hope everyone's all right that's watching, who's watching this a little bit later as well. We've got quite a bit to get through today, but only in two stories or two topics, weirdly enough. But don't worry, because it's Wednesday, which means we've got a full hour. Yes, a whole hour of listening to my gob. But don't worry, I have got guests with me. Jonty's going to be joining me in just a moment, as is Dan from F1 Reviews, making his F1 Word Stream debut. So make sure you make him feel as welcome as you can in chat. I'm sure you will do. But coming up over the next 60 minutes, we're going to be talking about all the latest from Force India news coming out today, or reports coming out today, that they could be set to miss out on the Belgian Grand Prix because of their ongoing legal issues. And we're going to do yet more silly season stuff. Yes, I know, we'll get over it eventually, but we're going to wrap it all up, what we know, ready for Belgium. And we're going to take your questions a little bit later on, of course. But in terms of questions, if you want to click the I on the top right of the video, there's a poll on there that simply asks, will we have 20 cars on the grid come Sunday? Basically, will Force India, or whatever they're called, be on the grid on Sunday? So get voting on that poll, and I'll try and remember to check the results at the end. But let us kick this off by saying a very good evening and a good middle of the week hump day. That sounds wrong to Jonty. Good evening, mate.
Yeah, can you please never say happy hump day to me again, please? That's just wrong.
Not after what happened last time. Okay, I promise I won't. I promise. Are we good? Are we happy? It's, well, not great news coming out of Formula One potentially, is it? But happy as you can be? Yeah,
we're not very happy about this. It's ridiculous. It's almost like a bait and switch.
It could get a bit bitchy. I'm not going to lie. I was saying to somebody on Twitter earlier, a lot of the conversation we've had today has been in caps and a lot of FFSs. So, yes, definitely going to be an interesting one. And we'll also say, so make sure you make him feel welcome in the chat. Hello and welcome to the F1 Word, Dan.
Hello. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on, man. I'm so buzzing. It's unbelievable.
I've never had anyone happy to be on before. It's a nice feeling. Thank you.
First for everything. Thanks, man.
No worries, mate. We're going to come to you two in a moment because I'm going to have to go through all this news because there's quite a fair whack of it. So we will come to you in just a moment on your opinions on it. But let's kick it all off with that top topic. I hate saying top topic. I suppose story maybe would be better. But this is something that began to develop around 4:30-ish this afternoon, and that is that according to racefans.net, Force India may well be denied entry to this weekend's Belgian Grand Prix unless they can clarify the team's current legal status. Without getting too moany and kicking off nice and early, can I just say it's a little bit more than just having to change the name, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I'll keep it as brief as I can. You might want to get a pen and paper. That's what we used to use in the old days for jotting things down. But essentially, the team's operating company went into administration, as we know, before the Hungarian Grand Prix. I was going to say something else then. Initially, it was rumoured that there were at least 5 parties interested in purchasing the team. One of those, of course, being Lawrence Stroll. And on August the 7th, a statement was issued by the administrators that said a deal had been agreed to save the team. And that was, of course, to a group of investors led by Lawrence Stroll. Quite a big group of investors. However, because of these legal issues around Vijay Mallya and all the other people involved, the consent of 13 Indian creditor banks was needed to push the sale through. Now, this is where there seems to be an issue currently, and I should stress at this point, there has been no official word from the team, the administrators, or anything involved at this point, but read into this what you will. Force India branding has been removed from trucks and motorhomes and such this morning, or since this morning, so like I say, read into that what you will. But anyway, according to racefans.net, sources that required consent, I can't talk today, was not received in time. Therefore, the sale was only completed on an asset sale basis. What that basically means is that the team are going to have to race as a new entity, effectively a whole new team. What that also means, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later as well, is that unless all teams agree, which it doesn't look like they have, 3 have apparently objected, then the new team would not be entitled to any of Force India's Constructors' Championship bonuses and prize money. And that's how I understand it anyway. So let's break it down, get straight to it. As of right now, Force India Limited hold the entry for Sahara Force India, but has no assets physically pretty much whatsoever. Whereas the consortium led by Stroll owns the hardware, including those cars, but has no entry. Quite simply, what that means is that the team, as in Force Stroll if you like for this stream, have everything they need to go racing, but no right to enter that race effectively. It is believed that the FIA is studying the legal implications of the situation and is expected to issue a statement. I'm watching Twitter throughout this stream. I'm sure Jonty will be as well. So if I see any breaking information, I will, of course, bring it to you. Now, add to all of this the fact that Dmitry Mazepin's company, one of those unsuccessful bidders, questioned the sale process earlier this week. It's probably an understatement to say that this is all a bit of a mess, but what I should add is that it is believed that Mazepin's involvement in this has nothing to do with what's happening at the moment. The team has not issued any kind of media information at the moment. We are still waiting. Interestingly enough, and I don't know if we can really read anything into this, Jonty, I've not received my email from Force India about the weekend's media schedule or their weekend plans or previews or anything. So I don't know if there's anything behind that, but clearly it's all pretty much now about what the FIA are going to do, whether they maybe allow them to race on some kind of dispensation, in an agreement that says you can race on the subject that you will have this license by X date. I don't know, but they've got to get something sorted because, as I said there, Jonty, it's a hell of a mess at the moment.
It is. It's a massive mess. Although I've got to say, I hadn't considered the email point until you mentioned it, and I haven't had one either.
Just got me thinking when I was scrolling. I've had Williams and Toro Rosso and Red Bull and all of that, but nothing from them. And I thought it's a bit of an odd one. And obviously, all that branding being removed from, or still being removed from all the stuff at the circuit, it's looking as though there's at least going to be a name change. But it is a bit more than just a name, isn't it, Jonty? A lot of people seem to think it's just a case of them going, well, we'll call ourselves Force Stroll then. It's not that. They've got to apply, as I understand the rules, as a whole new team.
Yeah, the problem is that during the administration process, the offers had to be made within a certain time for the creditors to accept. And this wasn't done, which meant that it couldn't be sold as a going concern, as a business. Only the assets could be sold. So literally the fixtures and fittings, which, I know we don't use slavery, but that does include the drivers and the staff. It does not include the business name and the legal infrastructure within all of the tax papers and registrations and whatnot. That's where the difference comes in. And I was getting some clarification on this earlier from Mark Gallagher. That's because Force India would class as an asset of Vijay Mallya, who, because of the Indian government and 13 banks there being creditors to him, have frozen his assets during the investigation process. So there's really not a lot they can do. It's all going to be down to general agreement in the pit lane and with the FIA.
And that's where it's going to be tough, isn't it, Dan? Because often in Formula One, trying to get these teams to agree on the basics is difficult. So it's going to be tough for them to get that acceptance. But you would think that in terms, from a sporting sense, just a sportsmanship, if you like, kind of approach, they would want Force India, Force Stroll or whatever on the grid this weekend.
Oh, for sure. 10 teams. It's got to be 10 teams. I mean, thinking back a couple of years ago when we had 12, that was great. And when we went down to 10, that did anger and upset a lot of fans. And I think if we show up at Belgium and there's 9, that's not going to get people on side. And it's been a great summer. There's been loads of loads of carnage every day. It's been great. This seems to have come out of nowhere, especially from my point of view. I haven't heard anything about this until today. But if I'm being honest, Stroll and Mallya, they are business savvy. They know exactly what they're doing. And I don't think there's any way, in my opinion, I don't think there's any way we're going to show up to Belgium with 9 teams. I think both of them have their heads screwed on. They know what's going on. And we know with Formula One as well, they love to keep stuff behind closed doors. They really do. And I think, yeah, I would be very disappointed if there were 9 teams, but I'm pretty confident that there will be 10.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. And the other thing as well, and I think people are missing a point, and I think Mark Gallagher may have been saying this to you, Jonty, as well, but the way he worded it is the best way to put it. Lawrence Stroll didn't go into this blind. He didn't just rock up to Force India's administrators one day and go, hey, I'd like to give you X million dollars to buy this team. He knew everything that was coming. He will have known that they'd have to go with it as a new entity, and I would not be surprised to find out if all of this application process to apply for a new name, apply for a new team has been going on now for a couple of weeks.
It probably has. It's all going to come down to the time frame. How much were they able to do during the shutdown? Does this fall outside the realms of the shutdown because it's purely the business entity? And how long does it actually take?
Well,
I don't know that.
There's nothing that I couldn't find anything in the sporting regulations about like mid-season team changes or new entries or entities during the season, but the process is it seems quite long-winded when you read it for teams that want to enter at the start of a season. They've got like a good year, basically. I think like 10 months to get their applications in, and they've got plenty of time to arrange it all. They can switch this, they can switch that. They just need a basic one. So this needs to be a complete package. But I'd like to think, John T., probably a bit ambitious here, that the FIA would have had something to do with this takeover, even if it was just sat in the room, a chair at the back with a coffee, listening to what was going on, so they knew what they had to get in place.
They're gonna know what they need to get in place. Like I said, it's all coming down to time. But you mentioning about Stroll being very business savvy, of course, he's going to have known this is all what's required so that it can be registered as a fresh team, so that he's got sole control of it, so it's complete cut out of Malia. It's just a case of, has the timing of it sort of backfired a little bit, so they're going to miss out on a race?
I really hope not. I think if they're going to turn up to Monza, it wouldn't be disastrous for Formula One, but it certainly isn't going to be good news to see 9 cars on the grid. Like you were saying, Dan, you know, the grid's fairly sparse as it is now anyway. We don't want to lose another team, especially a team like Force India that do punch well above their weight. So, I mean, I am pretty confident they'll be there, but at the same time, as somebody's just said in chat, fantastic from Rico there, classic F1 politics. That's what this is at the end of the day, isn't it, Dan? It's just all about posturing, and, you know, these teams that have apparently rejected the proposal for Stroll or Stroll Racing or Daddy Kong Racing, whatever we're calling it over on Twitter, to have this prize money. It's all just posturing. It's all about being, you know, the big guy, and it's all, as ever with Formula One and probably the wider world, if we're honest, mate, coming down to money.
Yeah, exactly. I think something I think is quite interesting is this is the first real big test for Liberty. They've not really had anything quite like this before, and usually Bernie, he used to have this all sorted out straight away. He'd be right in the middle of those conversations. I'd be really interested to see how much input Liberty are going to have in this. I don't think probably a fat lot, but in terms of that prize money as well, I don't think they'll end up with it. And I think that will be a big factor, because I don't think Williams are going to want that if they're going to be a new team, which most likely they are. I don't think Williams are going to want that at all. So I think all little things like that all build up at the end of the day. And so, yeah, they'll definitely get it sorted, but it's for sure an interesting one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm going to ask this question, John. I don't know if you found anything. I'm not 100%. I'm pretty confident on the answer. But if they're a new entity, does that mean that the Constructors' Championship is going to read 11 teams? Force India will still be on there, but they're just not competing anymore, and we'll end up with effectively 11th slot in the Constructors' Championship.
As far as I'm aware, that's how it will work, yeah. There isn't any rules to say that it would be otherwise.
Yeah, and of course the drivers would keep their Drivers' Championship points. I know that because they've earned them towards that Drivers' Championship. So why... I'll come to you first on this again, John T. And we'll, if you want to get ranty, mate, feel free to get ranty. That's what we do on the F1 Word, so it's absolutely fine. All of this rumour that 3 teams, or apparent reports that 3 teams have rejected Lawrence Stroll being given that prize money for the new team, it sounds as though, again, no official confirmation. It looks most likely it was Williams, McLaren and Renault involved somewhere. Why are they blocking that? Is that because they are sat there going, well, rules are rules, we want people to adhere to the rules? Or are they sat there thinking, well, actually, we could get a nice little 9th slice of that pie?
It seems pretty obvious and cynical, doesn't it? At the end of the day, they are struggling. And all they've got to do is stick their hand up and go, no. And that's it. They've automatically jumped a place up in the Constructors' Championship. It's very, very unpleasant to think that, but it does seem like the case. The only other possible team that I could think of that would possibly have something against this would be Haas, because they've had to do their 3 years as a new team before they start getting the payouts. So it would be a bitter pill for them to swallow if Force India got saved, started up as a new team like they've had to, and suddenly get all the money that they're currently accruing as a constructor. That wouldn't be very fair to them.
I think the one that surprises me, I was just reading from J Parton 1023, says Williams salty, McLaren worried they'll be beaten, Renault no idea. Renault are the surprise in that for me. If they were involved, I can't quite understand why, because as good as Force India have been over the last few seasons and as solid as they've been this year, Dan, I'd be surprised if Renault are overly concerned about them and why they'd want to get involved. Williams, they need the money. I no doubt they'd want that slice of the pie. McLaren don't really, given that they're talking about how many sponsors they're signing compared to everybody else today. And I don't think Renault would be overly concerned by Force India. So it's a bit of an odd one. But again, it's just this politics rubbish, isn't it, in Formula One?
It's all about the game. It's all about the game. Yeah, Renault, again, seems completely out of nowhere. I mean, obviously, it's not confirmed that it's Renault. But I can't really see why either. I tend to agree with you there. I mean, with Ricciardo coming in as well, it all seems very bright with that team. And yes, Force India have been fourth now in the Constructors 2 years in a row, but that's not going to happen this year. And I don't think it will in the next few years. So it's definitely an odd one why they've done that. And I can't see any clear-cut reason why they would want to stop Force India, or Force Stroll, as we're calling them today. I love that. Stopping them getting some prize money.
Yeah, I mean, from the Williams point of view, because I'm pretty confident they have. I seem to have read that somewhere, and they are really struggling for money, so it makes sense. And to be fair, rules are rules. If you're a new entity, you don't get the prize money from whatever was there before. So, that's fair enough. They have to abide by that. But from a Williams point of view, if Force India fall off the grid, they still keep their place in the Constructors and they don't move anywhere in the Championship, but that money won't go to Force India because there's no one to receive it, so it'll then get split between the 9 teams. So from their point of view, it makes total sense. But if they're thinking, we might gain a place in the Constructors here, I'm sorry, but Lawrence Stroll, all he's done is purchase all the assets. He will have the same drivers, as far as we know, at least one of the same drivers. He's going to have the same chassis, the same engine. All that development that was going to come later in the year is still going to come. So that Force India is still going to be a damn sight better than that Williams, probably better than the McLaren, definitely better than the Toro Rosso. So they're soon going to pick up the points to overtake them, Jonty. So from that point of view, it doesn't make any sense.
No, really doesn't. That's what's been bugging me. I mean, a lot about this, when you get into the sort of the really semantic details of law, yes, it's right. But in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't make sense at all. Certainly not for the spectacle that everyone expects. And ultimately, that's what brings the money in overall. So none of it really makes sense. The only positive thing I personally can draw from this is that it does completely cut off all ties for Malia. So he's just got the Indian government to deal with. Good luck with that.
I think, he's going to have a lovely time with that one, isn't he? But I suppose I'll throw this question at you then, Jonty. Do you think that Force Stroll should get that money? Or do you think it's right that they shouldn't get it, but do you believe it should go somewhere else rather than to the other teams?
Possibly split it, just so that the gesture's been made. Yes, we've had a rough time, but thank you everyone for allowing us to stay in. Maybe those 3 teams, give them sort of 15% each or something.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan? Do you think they should get the money? Because at the end of the day, sort of in many ways, the team at that factory have earned that money, but it's a whole new team now.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think I have to disagree with you there, Jonty. I mean, we don't know how much money's coming into Force India. Obviously, it's a takeover. So does Lawrence Stroll really need, however, X amount more? That's questionable. But I think for the staff working behind closed doors at Force India, back at the factory, we don't know obviously where this prize money goes, but I'm sure there is some sort of bonus for them. They'll still be working in the same environment with the same colleagues. So I think for them, it would be nicer for them to have the money rather than, say, a Mercedes, a Ferrari, a different team that they haven't really put anything towards Force India.
Yeah, somebody in chat just saying that. I'm looking on the small screen. Amitesh says the money should be split into the 405 workers. I mean, that'd be one way to do it, wouldn't it, John, to give it to those that have worked towards earning that money?
Yeah, that'd be a hell of a bonus.
They'd probably all retire.
Yeah, because you got to think they'll be taking something. Sort of 5th, 6th in the Constructors' Championship, you're looking at between $21 and $26 million. So it's not an insubstantial amount of money.
It'd be a very nice bonus, wouldn't it, at the end of the year for them? But it's got to go somewhere, and I think my worry is that it goes in the pocket of the FIA or somebody like that. But at least we've not got Bernie running the sport anymore, so we know it's not going there. But maybe, you know, the fairest way is to split it equally between the 9 teams. But then you've got a situation where we're talking about money, and Ferrari already get the most, are going to get a bit more, and Mercedes get a bit more, Red Bull get a bit more. Well, you know, why? It's just a personal thing. I don't think it needs to be going that far. I mean, maybe split it between the midfield, but then at the same time, them top 3 are then going to kick off because they've not got their things. And it's just F1 politics, as we keep saying, Dan. It's just a right mess, in my opinion. And although, as we were saying earlier, Lawrence Stroll didn't go in blind, he knows what he's doing, it could probably have been handled a hell of a lot better before it got to this situation.
100%. And I think, if I'm being honest, there's still more dramas to come. You know, are we even going to see the same livery come Monza, I'd say? You know, I think there's probably not enough time for Spa, but there's so many more questions around this story. And I think it's going to be great in the next, not necessarily days or weeks, but even months, how this is going to develop. And especially come next season, I imagine this team is going to look completely different. And I think that's why a lot of us love Formula One. All these sort of off-track excursions and stories that really make it one of the best sports in the world.
He's right there, isn't he, John T? We love all the tinfoil hat stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. I even suggested some people won't like it, and so I dig at them. Just a suggestion. I'm putting the numbers together. 3 teams. There's 3 very, very friendly teams with each other at the moment, all under a certain horsey badge. You know, if they're all banded together, they all get more together. And 2 of those teams, realistically, are getting beaten by, or would likely be beaten by, Force India. You know, anyone can come up with these theories. I would say that the only thing that does go in the defence of Lawrence Stroll on this is how quickly and crazily the whole thing started off. You know, with tweets appearing out of nowhere, news coming out that they'd all rushed into the courtrooms that morning when they'd only had about 12 hours to get documents together. You know, it's been a very, very fast process. So that does defend him a little bit, but until we know more details, we can't say for sure.
Yeah, and what I will defend him on as well is at least he's come out and he's saved those 405 jobs. He can afford to pay off the creditors, and we know he's got a lot of money in his pocket to keep that team afloat. So at some point they are probably going to be sorted. I'm just worried for Belgium. It is Wednesday. I keep thinking, it's only Wednesday, but you got pressers tomorrow, then it's practice on Friday. Surely this has got to be sorted, John T. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's got to be sorted by Friday morning, has it not? Really?
By rights, it should be sorted for tomorrow morning, because as far as I'm aware, appearing in the official FIA press conferences is a contractual obligation of the teams and the drivers.
Yeah, I'm thinking in terms of track action. I can't see that they wouldn't be allowed that they wouldn't take part on a Friday and still be allowed to race on Sunday. Perhaps I'm wrong. It might be that they can turn up and go on track when they want. I suppose teams plenty of time to sit out practice, don't they? But as long as they're in a garage, I suppose they'll be fine. But I'm just we'll cut this now and we'll go on to the silly season stuff because that's going to be a lot. But I will just come to you first, Dan, on this one. Yes or no? And if you want to make a point, that's fine as well. Are we going to have 20 cars on the grid on Sunday?
Keep it simple. Yes, we will.
And John T?
Oh, what the hell? No, we won't. There we go. One of each.
I'll say maybe. There you go. We're absolutely sorted. Somebody just tweeted me, actually, weirdly saying, isn't there a rule that if the cars fall below 20, then other teams will have to provide an additional car? I think it's if we fall below 9 teams, isn't it? I'm not 100% on that. I will have to check that one out a little bit later, but I think it's less than that, but I think we are getting to that point.
Yeah, maybe they'll come to some middle of the road arrangement and we'll get 19 cars. You know, they'll be allowed to run one.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It'd be something, wouldn't it? Just while things are getting sorted out. But we'll come on to the silly season stuff now because I know you guys are going crackers. Actually, I won't. I'm lying. I'm going to come and get some reaction from chat for that because that's kind of the point of F1 Daily is to get you guys involved as well. So let's see what you're all saying on this one. Kai says, I hope this team don't end up like Jordan or Caterham. I think Caterham went about things in a very different way, so they should be okay. Funky Monkey, fantastic name, says Braun will sort it out. He's the man, isn't he? He's got his head screwed on. He knows what he's doing. Why buy a team instead of making a new one, says Tom Tal. I assume, Dan, that's just because if you buy one that's already established, everything's pretty much in place for you to go racing, and it's a bit less of a payout, I suppose.
Oh, half the job's done already, isn't it? You've got the staff, you've already got the car, you've got some links with the sponsorships, the drivers. I mean, it's a hell of a lot easier. You know, when was the last time we really saw a team bought from scratch? Haas, but we've seen the likes of Lotus be bought out by Renault, and obviously Renault, a big manufacturer. So if they're buying out a team, it's obviously a lot easier.
Yeah, very true. Yes, they will be there, says Philip Barber. I always use your full name, mate. That's going to become a thing now every time you're in chat. Is it so incredible that an F1 team based for India has made it this long? I mean, that's come from Sam. And I'm going to be honest, Jonty, when Force India first took over from Jordan, I wasn't sure they'd be around anywhere near as long as they have been. They've done incredibly well and punched well above their weight.
Yeah, I'd like to think that there's a lot of the old staff there. Yeah, the top names will come and go and change, the designers, the technical directors, this, that and the other, but the rest of the guys on the shop floor, I imagine a lot of them will stay where they are, and they'll keep that underdog attitude that's really kept them going all the time when they were Jordan as well. You know, they were always an underdog, and they always achieved far more than they should. And you get the feeling that that's what it's like to be in the factory. Everyone's super positive no matter what, always thinking that something better is going to come from what they should be getting. Maybe that's it.
See, when you talk about Jordan punching above their weight, I always think back to 1999 and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, not really in the title fight, but an outsider until he retired from, I think it was the European Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. He was right in there. That's punching above your weight. That was a great season. Go back and watch 99 on F1 TV. It's absolutely a wicked season, right from Australia onwards. Just ignore Murray Walker because he has a bit of an off couple of races with that one. Like me with my streams. Two more then. We'll take a couple more points from this one. Then we're going to go on to the silly season stuff and try and wrap it all up as best we can for you and try and explain it the best we can. I'm not entirely sure. Can we do a crowdfund team all out in a few quid, says Alex Gate. Yeah, why not? Yeah, go for it. And one more. Let's have a look. Who would be the 19th car? There you go. You've got yourself a problem there, Jonty. Ocon or Perez?
There's only one way to settle that. Rock, scissors, paper. The true gentleman's duel.
You could say Robot Wars or something like that then. But I think probably Perez if it came down to it. I'd like Ocon, but I think it would be Perez because he's pretty much signed up. What about you, Dan? If they could only run one car, who's running, Ocon or Perez?
It's got to be Perez. But Jonty, what order did you say rock, paper, scissors then? That really triggered me. I'm not going to lie, that really got me.
OCD.
Would it be better as rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock?
Oh, God. Let's move on quickly. Let's move on quickly before it gets any weirder. Silly season. Did you know there's been a bit of a chaotic summer in terms of driver transfers? Don't know if you two have been keeping up with it. It's been madness, but I thought I'd go out and create the most incredible slide and picture for you all to look at. So brace yourself. This took me seconds to make. They are your confirmed drivers so far for 2019. That should say 2019, not 18. That's how good this slide is and how long it took. Hamilton and Bottas at Mercedes. Ferrari will be keeping Sebastian Vettel and somebody. Red Bull is Verstappen and Gasly. Renault is Hülkenberg and Ricciardo. And McLaren is Carlos Sainz. Jonty, there are not many confirmed, are there, for next year?
No, there really isn't. Still 12 seats available, officially. You know, there's a few that we're pretty sure on, like Sirotkin and Stroll, but it doesn't read well for the back end of the grid.
It's been... I keep using it on Twitter, Dan, as the best way to sum it up, and in the comment section. It's been madness this last few weeks. Absolute madness. The craziest I've known for a very long time, if not ever.
Madness, it's not the best way. It's the only way to describe it. It's been a lot of fun speculating, but I'm sure some people like myself who are fans of drivers without a drive, it's definitely a nervous time, I would say.
A couple of people in chat saying that says 2018. Yes, it's supposed to say 2019. Like I say, I took seconds to do this, so in a blind panic, think it was a good idea, and clearly it wasn't. Just seeing somebody say that's the full grid, that's the mighty dash, that's the full grid, the way things are going. Oh, that's a terrifying thought, isn't it? But they are all the confirmed seats for this window. That is what we have at the moment. This window, it is turning into football. But I think looking at that, if we're being honest, Jonty, it's highly likely, from what we understand, that it's going to be Raikkonen alongside Vettel. That looks like it's done. And in terms of McLaren, you would probably argue, as much as they would love to put Norris in that car, I'm pretty sure that's going to come down to Van Dorn or Ocon.
It seems that it's going that way. I have to be honest. Yeah, I can't think of anyone else that would really be a part of that battle.
No, I mean, you've got Norris, haven't you? But I think one thing I will say, actually, while we're talking McLaren, because, like I said, it could get a bit of a bitchy stream. Stoffel Van Dorn, who apparently, according to one person who refuses to listen to what I say, I really, really hate, despite spending all year talking about how much I rate him and want him to do well and stay in Formula One. McLaren said earlier in a statement, "We're giving him all the support we can while during F1 silly season, having a look around to what the various opportunities are." Dan, does that sound like a team that are 100% behind their driver?
Sounds like a team that are backtracking a little bit of considering what they've said the past few months about him. I think he will stay. I think that's the best option for the team going forward. Just have that bit of consistency in there. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Ocon's the only real other candidate. For me, Norris, he's done well in F2, but he hasn't screamed at me like Leclerc did last year. And I think Russell has been the better out of the two. Probably the less consistent. I think Norris has only missed out on the points twice, but I don't think he's ready. I think fingers crossed he comes second so he can do Formula 2 again. That gives McLaren a few more options come 2021. But I think, yeah, Van Dorn for me, he's got to stay. But yeah, I think Ocon is the only one in that run-in.
See, I thought it was between Norris and Van Dorn. Then Ocon looked like he was going to lose his seat and still does. I think they'd be daft not to take him if the option's there. But at the same time, I really, really want Van Dorn to keep his seat because he's up against a double world champion, Jonty. And I know for some people that doesn't wash as an excuse. But Fernando Alonso, as I said in my video yesterday, has got to be worth a tenth, 2 tenths a lap, and he's within 2 or 3 tenths pretty much every race on qualifying pace. Yes, he's losing 12-0, but, that doesn't mean that if you put Carlos Sainz alongside Fernando Alonso, that would suddenly be 6-all. Alonso's an incredible driver, one of the best on the grid, and some would say one of the greatest of all time. I think that might be a stretch, but he is one of the best on the grid at the moment, and it's a hell of a yardstick to measure Van Dorn against. So surely keeping him on for one more year and seeing what he can do against Sainz is going to be fairer, because then everyone can go, well, he got thrashed 21-0 in qualifying by Sainz, so yes, he should be dropped.
It's pretty much the only fair way to see it. I can't see any other way to make that decision. So it does stand to reason, but again, how much of that is going to come down to if they manage to miraculously make a decent car next year?
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? They're not going to be up there winning races. So we said this the other day, Alonso isn't going to come back. I don't think that's going to happen, as much as we'd love to see him stay or to come back. But I am wondering if there is, and somebody put it in the comments yesterday, it was on chat as well, I do wonder if we are looking at a shootout situation. That's probably the wrong way to put it, but effectively on Friday when Norris is in there for FP1, Van Dorn in there for FP1. They give them both the same fuel, the same everything, send them on the same programs. They get all the data they need and can say, right, well, Van Dorn was better here, but Norris was better there. I think Van Dorn will be good for us in this sense. So let's use whichever one they don't want to take as make weight in that deal for James Key. Or am I overcomplicating it, Jonty? Probably.
You're going to give yourself a nosebleed in a minute.
I've got tissue stuffed up there. It's terrible. This silly season is not good for me, but it could be. They might look at it and go, all right, we still think Van Dorn's the better option than Norris. Let's send Norris to Toro Rosso. Or Norris really impresses and they say, okay, let's send Van Dorn to Toro Rosso.
I think that'd be crazy if they went straight for Norris and lost Van Dorn. Even that one full year of him and Sainz together would be much more beneficial for the team in developing the car, trying to get him out of this hole.
I agree. I think keeping Van Dorn makes total sense, but also Ocon, he's got to be mentioned in there, and maybe he would be a good shot for them. But I think the thing is with Norris, Dan, is he's 18 years old. I mean, what's the rush? He's just come from Formula 3 or Euro F3 to F2. Does he really then need to get thrown into the pressure cooker that is going to be McLaren, who are going to want somebody who can really deliver because they are struggling at the moment? So 18 years old, a lot of pressure. What's the rush, really?
There's no rush, is there? I mean, I think the rush is the hype train that all the fans want him in there, especially all the British fans. They want another British driver on the grid, especially with Hamilton coming to the end of his career. But there shouldn't be a rush. I think that's what some drivers like Verstappen, not so much Verstappen, but Stroll, they've been criticised for being too young to be in the sport. And that can make or break drivers. And that could happen with Norris. So I don't think there's any need to do it. I really don't.
I don't see why. I get that teams are looking to build for the future, but with 2021 on the horizon, so many drivers out of contract at the end of 2020, I don't see why we're rushing. I don't really see why we're rushing to get these youngsters in. You know, even George Russell, who has really impressed me this year. I knew he was going to be good, but he's impressed me even more than I thought he would. A lot of people talk about him to Williams. Well, if he wins F2, it'd be great. But if, let's say, he doesn't win F2 and somebody else surprises all and wins it, and it's not Norris and it's not Russell, does he need to be rushed into Williams? Because I don't really think that would be a great career move for him at the end of the day, because they are really struggling. So I don't know why we're rushing to get these kids through. But let's talk. We've talked Toro Rosso, we've talked McLaren ad nauseum over the last couple of weeks. But let's talk Force India. I think we know pretty much what the lineup's going to be next year now, Dan. It's going to be Lance Stroll, if we're being completely honest, and it sounds as though Sergio Perez is just crossing the T's and dotting the I's now for his contract extension.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great lineup, isn't it? I mean, there's no denying that. The only disappointment really is Ocon, or Ocon. I've always been very bad at that pronunciation. He's such a fantastic driver, and I think quite a few people would agree he's been the better out of him and himself and Perez this year. So it's a real shame if he ends up being a bit like Verline, being forced out of F1 because of this deal. So fingers crossed for him, he can find a seat. But for Force India or for Stroll or whatever, this is sensible for them and makes sense.
Well, Perez brings a lot of experience within the team, doesn't he? He's been there a long time. We know what he can do, and it makes sense. And I think that's a good lineup. And I'm quite interested in it. I'm a lot of hate out there for Lance Stroll, and I've been critical of him, as I have every driver at some point. I don't hate him. I don't have a real dislike for him. People go on about his personality. I don't really look at drivers in that way. I watch what they do on track, and he's been all right, nothing special. But I'm quite looking forward to seeing him up against Perez's experience in a car that's a damn sight better than that Williams, because it may well, Jonty, answer that question once and for all as to how good or how he is or how good he isn't.
I very much look forward to seeing how he does in a better car, and it's the only chance that he's going to be able to really show what he can do, like you say. And also, I do think it should be Perez in that seat, because going on the information we've got, dropping him out of it for next year would be a really horrible way to repay him for putting his neck on the line.
That's a great point. Yeah, the way he's handled that, he's kind of given Lawrence Stroll the chance to save the team, didn't he? So I always think that might come down to it. Maybe Lawrence has, we said it before, didn't we? Maybe given him an elbow and said, you do this for us and then we'll give you a seat for next year. So I think that's pretty cut and dry. I would say one seat at Haas, probably Jonty is done. I can't see them dropping Kevin Magnussen unless somebody else picks him up, because he's been one of the big surprises this year. But it's a case of who's going to partner him. A lot of talk coming out at the moment that Charles Leclerc is just about done for that Haas seat next year. But I should say to those that keep bringing it up, it's the same publication that said that Raikkonen wasn't going to be staying at Ferrari next year and it will be Leclerc there. So take it with a bucket of salt, but it looks like it could well happen, which I'm not a big fan of, mate.
It's too many mistakes. Even with the amount of loyalty that Gene Haas insists Grosjean deserves, and he does. He took a big risk with joining up with the team, and he showed a lot of loyalty to them and helped them get to this point. But this year, just his mistakes alone, ignoring the drama they had in the pits, could cost them 2 places in the constructors' title. That's too much.
Yeah, I think that's what it's going to come down to, isn't it? It's going to come down to whether they want to reward the loyalty or look for the future. But I don't quite frankly, Dan, if I'm being completely 100% honest, because I always am, I don't know why I say that on the channel, because I'm always completely honest, but I don't want Leclerc to go to Haas. I'd rather just stayed where he is. Why go to another team that is effectively a sideways step the way Sauber are improving, and have to learn a new team, settle into that team, and possibly put yourself under unnecessary pressure? Why not stay where you are? Keep him there. Keep developing him, keep developing the car. You can have all the data from 2 seasons in the same team, and they can get a better reading of where he is. Because I think it's a bit of a gamble to go, what is sideways?
Yeah, I suppose I agree with you there. I mean, I'm not dead against Leclerc going to Haas. I mean, if the cars stayed where they are now in the pecking order, it would be great seeing Leclerc fighting up much closer to podiums and maybe getting Haas's first ever podium. But I've got to come clean. If I'm going to have a bias towards any driver, it would be Romain Grosjean. But I think he deserves another chance. And I think back to Magnussen last year, and I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I was appalled by Magnussen last year. I thought he was probably the worst driver on the grid, arguably. I was very disappointed with some of the moves he made and how aggressive he was and the comments he made. And Haas gave him another chance. And I think they'll do the same with Grosjean. I think Grosjean's been worse this year than Magnussen was last year. But considering Grosjean put his faith in the team in those very early days, like you said, John T, I think they'll repay him next season. I think he will get another chance. But I'm not dead against Leclerc going there. But I think for me, it's more that I'm pretty confident they'll keep Magnussen and Grosjean.
That I have to say, first of all, Dan, don't worry, mate. We were very critical of Kevin Magnussen in the winter to the point where people said that we were hating on him and, yeah, some pretty horrible stuff. But he was pretty bad last year. But that's a great point, isn't it, John T? If they gave Magnussen a second chance, why not give Grosjean that second chance?
Yeah, true. But Grosjean wasn't exactly brilliant last year either. Or the year before. The year before, yeah, first year out, fair enough. But last year he didn't really get as good as he could have done. How much of that was the car is hard to say, because the Ferrari deal's clearly given them a massive boost as it's sort of come to fruition. But maybe it's just me thinking that the team really needs to be looking at the results they could be getting as opposed to what they are getting.
No, I tend to agree with you on that. I think they need to look at everything, don't they, as the big picture. But I'm going to say that I think it'll be Magnussen and Grosjean next year. John T, if you putting you right on the spot now, who do you think the lineup will be at Haas for 2019?
K-Mag Leclerc.
Dan, I think you've just answered this, but we'll go again. Dan?
Yeah, it's K-Mag and Grosjean. And I'll just add as well, I just want to quickly chuck in there. I'm not too sure whether Haas would like the idea of Leclerc coming in for 1 season, 2 seasons max, and then moving on. I know Grosjean's coming to the end of his career, but would the team prefer to have him up until 2021 and then get in a new driver? I just wondered about your thoughts on that.
No, I'd not really considered that, to be honest. That's a fair point, because it would effectively be a loan, wouldn't it? Which is, I know that's what he's got at Sauber, more or less. But yeah, I might have to think about it. It's an interesting one. But thoughts, John T? It's a good point.
I think the biggest problem around this one is that, similar to what's gone on with Toro Rosso and Renault and McLaren, Kimi is the big key here. None of it is really going to start to fall into place until we know what he's doing. So there can be suggestions made for various other situations with drivers going on loan for a year, this, that, and the other, but until we know what Kimi's doing, none of it's really going to make any sense.
Do you think he'll stay at Ferrari as per current reports and rumours?
I hope not.
What about you, Dan? I mean, I really like Kimi, but I think, it feels to me like he's there for the paycheck. Step aside, let somebody else have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, I love him. I think a lot of fans love him. I think he's done well this year. I don't think he's been awful. I mean, how many times at the beginning of the season in a row was he on the front row of the grid, even when Vettel wasn't? I don't think he's been awful. He's on this great run of podiums, and I think he's what Ferrari need right now. But at the same time, I think Leclerc should be given that chance to flourish and to be chucked in there straight away and show what he can do. I don't think it will happen. I think Raikkonen will stay, but yeah, that would be probably, for me, I think that would be the biggest move. Not the most surprising, but in terms of the entire grid, I think that would have the biggest consequences.
Yeah, two more teams as far as I know, and they are Sauber and Williams. Before I get to that, we'll get to Q&A in a moment. Don't forget to drop your vote on the poll on the top right thingy, my Bobby, in the corner, and let me know what you think. Will there be 20 cars on the grid come Sunday? I'd imagine you're all pretty sure there will be, but we will see. I'll get your results to that in a moment. But Sauber, again, Jonty, like you said, this is all going to come down to what Kimi Räikkönen does, because he's going to trigger it all. But in terms of half of that team, I'm pretty sure Marcus Ericsson's going to stay.
Well, he's certainly been performing his best ever. And that's quite clear. Again, they've got a lovely little deal going with Ferrari. It doesn't quite go as far as what the Haas one does, but they've been improving dramatically. It's quite a while since we've seen a team improve so much in the same year. That throws the worry onto Ericsson's seat. Because if Sauber are performing so much better, they're going to be getting so much more money out of the Constructors' Championship. And and I don't know if there is other. They're probably going to have various stipulations in their sponsorship clauses, bonuses for various results coming above certain positions. So is that going to be worth more to the team, and then get a better driver in?
Yeah, because let's be honest, if we're being completely brutally honest, Discord will hate me for this. Ericsson was pretty much there because he bought a nice amount of money for Sauber, not because he was of course he had pedigree from lower categories. We've said this about every driver that's come to Formula One and still bought money as well. But that was the main reason he got that Sauber seat at the time, was because they were basically skint and really struggling. But this Ferrari tie-in, like you say, Jonty, and of course that higher place in the Constructors could all count against him. But let's assume Ericsson does stay and Leclerc moves on, or there's one seat available, let's put it that way, at Sauber, Dan. Who's in the frame? Do you think those FP1 sessions for Giovinazzi pretty much put him as top of that list, or do you think there might be a bit of a surprise there?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Giovinazzi, hasn't he? I know, Jonty, you were a bit critical of Gio, but I think when he did do those two races, he was good enough, I think. Not as good as Pascal Wehrlein, but I don't think he'll be coming back. But I think Gio, because I don't think there's any other real options. You look at Formula 2, I'm not too sure about super license points, but Fuoco, he hasn't done too much. Delatraz as well. They're nothing special, and I don't think they really hugely deserve an F1 seat, especially like Gio does, considering he's been waiting for so long. And I think, given the chance, when he did do those two races last season, he was chucked in at the deep end on that Friday, just straight into the car. Let's go see what you can do. So if he was given a chance, I think he might be something special, and I think he could be better than Ericsson. But it's a case of we've got to wait and see, really. And I think with the Ericsson seat itself, I think it all depends on how deep Ferrari are going to sink their claws into that team. If they're going to leave it as it is, I think he'll keep his seat. If they're going to dig deeper and really try and push in those Ferrari ties, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Leclerc and Gio.
What about Callum Ilott? If he wins the GP3 title, I know I've just said don't rush people to F1, but he is one of those in line for that Ferrari seat. And I'm also going to throw another one in there, Jonty. Danny Kvyat.
Oh, Danny Kvyat. That would be a controversial one. I'm not too sure if he would jump back at an F1 seat. I mean, everyone loves a Formula One driver, of course, but I think all the criticism he got, I think it would take a lot for him to come back. And I think he fits the Ferrari mold as a development driver very well. Callum Ilott, that would be an interesting one. I think I'd love to see that. Although earlier I said we shouldn't rush Norris in. That would be interesting for sure. And I think Sauber, compared to McLaren, is a less pressurized drive. McLaren, everyone's eyes are going to be on Norris if he goes there straight away. But with Ilott, if he went into Sauber, I think he would have chance, a bit like Leclerc did at the beginning of this year, just to be on the grid for a couple of races, not have to perform straight away, and not under the immense pressures that teams like McLaren have. So that would definitely be interesting. Again, it just depends on whether he can win Euro F3, but he might be able to. He's second, I think, at the moment. So yeah, I think I'd like that. I love that decision from you there. That little shout, that's a good one.
Callum Ilott needs an F2 season, according to Charles, and I tend to agree. But can I just say, people think it's hilarious that we're saying Kvyat. We're talking about drivers with Ferrari tyres that could fill a Sauber seat, so it's possible. But go on, Jonty.
Yeah, Ilott isn't ready. The way to look at it, you've got he's in GP3. Look at Norris and Russell right now. Yes, they've been doing, FP1 sessions, being involved in testing and whatnot, but they're really not ready for a race seat. They need to finish out this season of F2, get the next step down from F1 as a full championship, really take it down to the wire so they can see all the pressures involved before they get up to F1. Ilott desperately needs that as well.
Yeah, I think he needs that F2 season. I think it would be, but it's worth mentioning his name because he is in that Ferrari line, if you like. So that leaves Williams. A lot of people think Russell's going to partner Sirotkin. I am 100% certain that Sergei Sirotkin will be in that Williams next year with somebody. And I think, again, this is going to come down to McLaren. If they take Ocon, then it could be Russell. If McLaren don't take Ocon, Jonty, could end up in a Williams, which...
Yeah. No one wants that seat right now. For obvious reasons. The car is beyond terrible and it's only going to damage their career. If you're a top team, seeing how bad that car is when you're coming to look to fill a seat, you've got to be thinking, oh, well, we like him, but he's been stuck in that Williams for so long, he doesn't really know how to develop a car, and he doesn't know how to handle a super fast car.
Yeah, I worry he's going to end up there. I'm trying not to knock Williams too much, but I think Ocon to Williams will be pretty, not devastating for his career, but it's not going to be a good thing, is it? So, has Jonty found some news? Or I think Jonty's having to dig on Twitter. I think he's found something, but he's thinking about it. Right, I'll tell you what, I'll come to you, Dan. Pascal Wehrlein. A lot of people asking about whether or not he can come back to Formula One. I don't think he will. I think his time is done, but I've said that a million times over the last 6 months. So, fresh opinion. Do you think Wehrlein back to F1? I think we've got stream issues. It looks as though we've actually lost Discord, which is a little bit annoying. So, yes, Discord is down. So I'm going to have to say, can you hear me now? Are we working now?
Yes, that's better for me.
That's better.
What happened then?
I think my Discord just started to go a little bit crazy because your messages come through on my phone but not on my desktop. So I think there's something going on there. But I was just going to say, Dan, I talk about Wehrlein all the time. I talk about, or people talk about him all the time, and I always say that I think his time in F1 is done. But your fresh opinion, do you think he could come back one day?
I'd love that. I'm very much the same. I think he deserved that chance. I thought he was great when he was in F1, and even when Ocon got the move to Force India ahead of him, I was gobsmacked. I thought Wehrlein was the better of the two. Not a popular opinion, so chat, there you go. But I'd love to see him back, but I think that year out has hurt him, and I'm not too sure if we'll see him back. And I think with all the other candidates for that Williams seat, I don't think he's first in line. But I will point out, I don't want to say straight away that it's all doom and gloom for Williams, because we could show up next year and they are, like Sauber, not at the back of the grid, but depending on the track, depending on the weekend, they might be there or thereabouts. So I'd like to think, and fingers crossed, that it's going to be Formula A with your Ferraris, your Mercedes, your Red Bulls, and then the rest of the grid are the midfield, and there's no backmarker team. So that'd be great if the likes of Ocon did go in that car, but it's not looking great. But yeah, Wehrlein, going back to him there, I'd love to see him in the car, but I don't think he'll get the chance.
He did all right, didn't he, with Sauber, Jonty? But I think we generally feel that's it for him.
Yeah, he's just another one of those unlucky drivers where the time's passed him by. Not entirely. We've already seen that with Gasly. He did a season in Formula E, and he's managed to come back, get a seat, and is now up into the Red Bull. So, it can happen when people have time out. But I don't think Wehrlein's gone to the right series to keep himself on the radar by going back to DTM.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never even thought about that. But that's a very good point. But actually, you just brought up Gasly there, and we've gone through the grid. I hope we've managed to confuse you all entirely once again. But very quickly, because I've given my view on this about 3 times in the last 2 days. Smart move, Gasly to Red Bull, or was it literally a case, Dan, of he was really the only option?
That's interesting. I think a bit of both. I think he was really the only option, but I think it's a smart move, and I think it's a good move for Red Bull and for Gasly. It finally gives him a chance to really prove if he deserves a drive in F1 and a top drive. And I think looking at his performances in GP2, it was back then, I think he deserves a go. And I think he's been great this year. And up against Max Verstappen, that's a real high-quality teammate to prove himself, because Brendan Hartley, bless him, he's not the fastest of drivers. So I think this will be a better comparison to see if Gasly is that top driver that he appears like he could be this season. But we'll have to wait and see. But I'm looking forward to it for sure.
What about you, Jonty? Good move?
Yeah, it's the best option. As we know, Red Bull was like to take from within, and they didn't, like Dan said, they really didn't have any other options. But of the options that there was, he's clearly the best.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm not going to give my opinion again. I've given that loads over the last few days, but we're going to come to your questions now. I am going to get the result from our magnificent poll today that I remembered to put. I promised I was going to start doing them. Can I also say as well, highest figures ever for a midweek stream, Jonty. We've been consistently over 1,000 watching tonight, so thank you very much to everyone that's tuning in. If it's your first time here as well and you've enjoyed the stream, do hit that old subscribe button thing and notification. You know what the YouTubers tell you to do, all that sort of thing, because it'd be great to have you on board for our little journey and join our team. So let's have a look at this result. Do we think that 20 cars will be on the grid come Sunday? 69% of you say yes and 30% say no. So 1% have gone missing on a different answer. So that's really good, YouTube. I'm calling that 70-30. I'm pretty confident we're going to have 20 cars on the grid come Sunday. I think we all are as well. So that's awesome. Hopefully they'll get it all sorted. I'm keeping an eye on Twitter. Not seen anything from the FIA. The talk was there might be an announcement regarding that at some point today, but it doesn't look as though that's going to be coming out anytime soon. Chat just waiting to pop out for me so I can read some of your questions. I will go over as well a quick recap on what that story is saying. I've been listening, not watching. Cool. Ryan M says 69%. Yes, I know. Always seems to happen here. Let's have a quick flick through. Ferrari or Mercedes for pole in Spa, asks Nick. I'm going to come to you first, Dan, on that one. Your first question on the channel.
Ferrari. I'm going Ferrari. And shall I say a driver? I think I will. I'll be cheeky and chucking a driver. I'd love Kimi to get it. So I'm going to say Kimi. That's a really unpopular opinion, I imagine. But the King of Spa, the fairy tale would be beautiful. It really would, especially if then he does announce that he is ending at the end of the season. But I love the dream that it could be Raikkonen. But even if it's not Raikkonen, I would go Ferrari.
Yeah. Jonty?
Yeah. Sorry, we've got agreements again, but I do think it's Ferrari's to lose. They've quite clearly got the best chassis, one of the best chassis, and probably the best engine now. So I don't see that Mercedes can do anything to answer.
Looks like rain as well this weekend. So, bit of rain, rusty from 4 weeks off. That'll get nice and tasty down into turn one on the run up through Eau Rouge, and that's Radion actually. I think that's. Oh, did I say that? No. I did it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Jack Chambers, moving on, says, looking forward to the F1 2018 game. I am actually, but I worked out today that probably the best chance for me to have a proper go on it is going to be Monday. So it's going to be sat there staring at me over the weekend, but. I'll ask you both if you're looking forward to it, obviously, but Jonty, this should have been released before the summer break, surely. Come on, give us something to do.
Yeah, I think they are missing a trick with that. Cody's, you need to get on the case. Friday after Hungary. That is the perfect time to release it.
How about you, Danny? You looking forward to getting your hands on that game?
Very, very much so. Pre-ordered it yesterday, a bit late for pre-order, but I did pre-order it. Need to get that Brawn car on the go. Love the games. And I mean, it's great that they've moved it to the summer. I know a couple of years ago, they did it at the end of the season, which was always a bit of a bummer because you'd always the new season would start and you're driving last year. So it's great that they've brought it to the halfway point. But yeah, I mean, we've been waiting 3 weeks now. I want to get my hands on this game.
I have to say, can you remember the old? Oh, here we go. Here goes Grandpa again. Matt was winding me up on this on Twitter earlier, actually, about how old we are, Jonty. But do you remember the old days when the F1 game used to come out in like April?
Yeah, but it depends how far back you're going. Because I can remember F1 on my Master System in 1993 coming out in April.
Yeah, I just going back in. Let's not do this. Let's not start reminiscing. This is bad. It's bad for us.
Come on, I had Grand Prix 2 on the Amiga.
Okay, I'm not quite that experienced in life, but yeah, okay. I can't remember my first one. I think it was 90. The oldest one I played was 94, but the first one I think I ever owned was 97 on the PC, and it was just Murray Walker screaming every race, "It's Irvine," or "It's Schumacher," or Martin Brundle coming over with, "You're right there, Murray." It's top quality, and people moan about Crofty in the game now. Imagine what it used to be like. That was, yeah. I'm getting it on Friday, says Philip Barber. He's looking forward to that game. Definitely a lot of hype for F1 2018. A lot of people pointing out that it's Radion, actually. Jonty called old. Oh dear, let's not, no. He'll kill me. Let's not even go there. Did you watch Monza 2008, says Max Weiss? I did. Hell of a race and a hell of a drive from Sebastian Vettel, Jonty. I think that seems to get forgotten quite often. That's a car that, you know, year previous was a Minardi, winning a race all right in the wet around Monza. I have a feeling we've gone a bit... Have we gone funny again on Discord? I think we have. I think Discord's gone funky again. So I think... just waiting for Jonty to let me know. I will disconnect and try again, see if we can get working, checking it all out. I think we've got some Discord issues tonight. It's all right. We got through the bulk of the stream. That's the main thing. I'll take a couple more of your questions and see if those guys start working again in a second. Stop muting. It's honestly not me. We had the issues with the mics last night when I was in voice chat on Discord. So there's something going on there, but I'll try and sort it. Definitely got some issues. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Hamilton has never been in a backmarker car. I don't think so, but no, he's not, has he? But he's never been. It's, you know, that's an argument. It's all. I'm not even going to get into that because it just causes me so much grief. I've pre-ordered it, so I'm getting the second it comes out. A lot of people apparently getting theirs early, coming through early. So Discord's still not working. It's 4 a.m. in Singapore. It is. I think, is Darth still up? I haven't seen her in chat today. She might have gone to bed. She's from your neck of the woods. So 2009 McLaren was a dog. It absolutely was, but it wasn't a backmarker car, but it was a poor car. Could you ever get Arav on the stream? You'd have to ask him that, Findlay. It's not for me to say. He's a top lad. I tell you what, the grind them boys are putting out on F1 2018 is incredible. I couldn't do that. I could not do it. I wouldn't have the patience to go through all of that. How does YouTube go through Discord? Badly, apparently. It's all just done through OBS, so I'll maybe go into that one day with you or get chatting in Discord with it. As far as Kvyat goes, I think he's been out of F1 too long to come back, plus his later reputation is a problem. I think we might have Jonty and Dan back. Yes, we have. There we go. I don't know what's going on tonight, just submission. We'll take a couple more questions and we'll leave it there because obviously something's going on. Somebody just saying there, as far as Kvyat goes, I think he's been out of F1 too long to come back, plus his later reputation is a problem. Any comment on that, Dan?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a completely fair statement, especially at the end. It was almost sad seeing him in that car. And when he came back, I want to say for a one-off race in the USA, it wasn't really a one-off, but when he had that race off, he came back and scored that point. We thought maybe it might be enough, but he was a shadow of his former self. And I think back to his Spa 2015 drive, that was something incredible. And to see him 2 years later being back at Toro Rosso, being forced out of Formula One, that's got to hurt him. I think it really did. Yeah, I don't see him coming back, and I think that comment is a very good comment.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'm going to take one more question because I'm getting a warning on Discord. So I think it's about to go down again, but I will quickly take one more before we go. Oh, do you know, Oliver, that is perfect for this stream. Favourite for the championship at the halfway point? You'd have to say, Jonty, top of the championship, Hamilton, but I've been saying all year that I think Vettel's going to pip him to it. So, favourite for the title as of right now?
Vettel. Even though Hamilton's got the lead, the Ferrari's too strong.
What about you, Dan?
I'm going to go Lewis. I think he always finds a way. And yeah, I'm going to have to chuck in a bit of British pride there. Sorry, John T, but I'm going Lewis all the way.
Lovely. There you go. I'm going to stick with Vettel because I'll get told off for change of predictions. I'm not allowed to change of predictions. So I've said Vettel since January, I think. So that's how crazy I am, Dan. But yeah, we're going to leave it there though, lads, because obviously Discord's being a bit of a git as of right now. It's obviously playing up. But thank you very much for joining me as ever, John T. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on as always.
Yeah, and it's always a pleasure to be on, and great to have a nice new voice with us, and I'm sure there'll be more.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got hopefully got Ellie lined up, get her sorted this Sunday. But Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. It really has. Thank you for coming along, and we'll definitely try and get you on again in the very near future.
What an incredible experience this has been tonight. Thank you so much, both of you, for having me on. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I can't wait to be on another episode.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much. I will leave you both for now, and I'll probably talk to you both in Discord in a bit, and we'll see if we can sort these problems out. But thank you very much. Right, and thank you to Dan and to Jonty there, as ever, and thank you to you guys for tuning in. F1 Daily is, of course, back tomorrow at 8 PM, and the Belgian Grand Prix preview, yes, F1 is back, is going to be up tomorrow at around 4 PM, provided everything on the PC works all right. Obviously, some issues tonight, but never mind. So that's tomorrow for the Belgian Grand Prix preview, and F1 Daily at 8 PM. And then this weekend, F1 Daily on Friday will be a practice roundup. There is going to be the qualifying report, and possibly, provided everything works all right, a qualifying watch-along. And then on Sunday, it's all back. The pre-race, the race watch-along, and the race debrief, all live on Sunday. Basically going to be sat on my PC talking to you guys throughout the whole weekend. So really looking forward to that. Great to have F1 back. You can follow me on social media, of course, and don't forget to check out Dan's Twitter, Jonty's Twitter, and their channels, which are linked in the description down below. But links to my social media for Twitter, for Discord, for Instagram, for Facebook are also in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.